How to stop taking things personally, 5 easy and helpful tips. There will always be individuals who will criticize you. On a daily basis, each of us is subjected to some type of humiliation. When we take insults personally, it can seriously damage our self-esteem. A strong scolding, particularly in a social context, can be depressing. We may begin to believe that we do not deserve our reputation or position if we take things too personally. Then, even tiny insults are more likely to cause us to respond strongly, leaving us hurt and angry. There may be times when your criticism is justified and the other person is not attempting to harm you. In either instance, you will want an effective coping method. Taking things personally and undervaluing yourself will only stymie your progress. It may potentially irrevocably harm your relationships. How to stop taking things so seriously. If you don't stop taking every insult personally, you might be offended for the rest of your life. It's a good idea to avoid allowing the barbs to stick. If you're prone to taking things personally, you should have some contingency plans in place to avoid being harmed by the comments shouted at you. Armed with them, you can begin to find reason and serenity in your own interpretation of circumstances, rather than what others tell you. So, how did you track them down? Here are some strategies and recommendations to help you avoid taking things personally and go on with your life. 1. Stop being concerned about what others think of you. Almost always, your true worth is not what people tell you. Whatever definitions others have assigned to you are drastically different from, and frequently the polar opposite of, who you truly are. Your life, like everyone else's, is unique. Stop worrying about what other people think of you. Recognize that you have no control over other people's actions, thoughts, or opinions. Set aside your self-limiting thoughts and tell yourself that you are valuable. Whether good or wicked, you are always greater than what others believe you to be. They'll never know the real you. With so much cultural blending these days, it's no surprise that even within close-knit communities, we don't realize how disparate our perspectives on the same issues are. Why are you so firmly entrenched in the concept that when people say only wonderful things about you, or say nothing at all, that is the only way they can restore your worthiness? When that bias is removed, you see that a person is making an innocent statement to you with no hostility toward you. That remark could be a reflection of their own taste, or, worse, their annoying personality. In any case, you can't let it affect your judgments of yourself. Nobody can say anything negative about you. Whatever people say about themselves is true. However, because you are still holding to a false score, you become exceedingly unsteady. Because that false center is dependent on others, you are constantly concerned with what others are saying about you. You realize there is no need to take things personally once you learn to observe the world without the filter of passed-down beliefs. 2. Demonstrate to them that you don't care what they think of you. This method differs from the first in that it focuses on showing to yourself that your beliefs are more important than the opinions of your critics. This one is about demonstrating to them that you don't care what they think of you. Stop caring about what people think of you when they mistreat you. Give them the royal ignore to prove it. Of course, if you don't care, don't pretend it. In many of our cultures today, people are expected to be ostensibly sensitive and caring about others. We participate despite the fact that we may not agree with the assignment. We can disagree with the idea, but that adds an additional burden. We must keep our diverse points of view purely personal. That prevents us from determining if we truly care for someone or if we're faking it for the sake of keeping the show going. So, when people say harmful things, take a time to reflect. Consider whether you regard them as valuable individuals who belong at the top of your social pyramid. almost everyone who humiliates you is expendable. You don't want to be concerned about them. It doesn't matter where you are in life, you always need a thick skin to prevent taking things personally and getting angry in the process. Having that thick skin shows them you don't care. You are what you think you are, and your worth is what you believe it is. It doesn't matter what anyone says or thinks about you as long as you realize that. 3. Take a step back from the fight sequence only for a moment. The worst thing you could do is respond with venom and hatred. That is not a road to take. By doing so, you risk enabling a troll, which is the single worst method to deal with a troll. When you take personal offense to whatever they say to you, your inner being may be baying for their blood. After all, your mind is already in threat perception mode, sending you messages to react in order to ensure your survival. It may even be a message, an email, a meme, or an emoji, some characters on a screen. It's just a digital display, but it's enough to irritate you. It's a digital ghost, not a real person standing there in front of you, saying such things. You're a ticking time bomb seconds away from erupting violently once your stress response kicks in. And once you begin to react, you are no longer under the direction of your thinking brain. You say and act in ways that you would never do in your daily life. Your hasty reactions on the spot are seldom your best responses, whether they are motivated by rage, envy, greed, hatred, or something else. To be honest, if someone were to film you during those moments, you might be astonished to see yourself erupting with such force. Once again, the easy rule to follow in such situations is, don't react right away. 1 minute may be all that is required to ensure that you do not start spewing venom in a hasty reply. Take a deep breath and a step backward. It's as if you take a step back or leave the area to go for a walk outdoors. This does two things. First, you physically separate yourself from the individual whose presence your mind views as a threat. Second, once you believe you're safe, your mind begins the process of reasonable thinking. You regain control once your sensible brain takes over. You can now answer with deliberate thought. You can now even opt not to react at all. I'm not even going to dignify that with a response, as people skilled with words would say. Consider it this way. You have control over the words that are thrown at you. You can select your response as long as it is in your hands. After you've spoken and the words have left your mouth, you no longer have personal control over them. So put that authority to use. 4. Exercise mindful meditation. Mindfulness is one technique for regaining control of your reasonable thinking once you have withdrawn yourself from the situation. Mindfulness involves allowing thoughts to come and go while observing them objectively. Become an observer of the thought currents that move through your consciousness. Sit by the side of your thoughts and watch, just like someone sitting by the side of a river watching the river run past. Or, as someone sits in the woods and watches a flock of birds go by, just sit and observe. Or, in the same way that someone observes the wet sky and moving clouds, you observe the clouds of thoughts moving in the sky of your mind. The flying birds of emotions, the flowing river of emotions, you simply sit and observe, passively standing on the bank. It's like if you're sitting on the bank, watching the ideas pass by. Don't meddle, don't intervene, and don't try to stop them in any way. Don't repress anything. If an idea comes to you, don't stop it. If it doesn't, don't try to push it to come to you. You are only to be a bystander. Mindfulness assists you in recognizing and comprehending your emotions. Once you've done that, you'll recognize that sensations are fleeting. They will evaporate after a while if you do not hold on to them. If the negative feelings associated with the insult emerge, Engage in some mindfulness or belly breathing to stimulate your nervous system. 5. Avoid jumping to conclusions or making snap decisions. People frequently say things without considering the impact those words may have on you. It's possible that they didn't mean to hurt you, so why should you believe they said those things to tear you down? We all encounter emotionally ambiguous circumstances. Before you jump to assumptions when anything like this happens, ask them what they actually meant. In light of the fact that you were offended by their remark, ask them if it was their intention to make you feel that way in the first place. People frequently do things that appear to be just impossible. Everyone is doing their best to meet their own requirements at any given time. Why did that car cut you off in rush hour traffic? But, before you label the motorist as a bad-tempered thug, consider the possibility that they are in an emergency and need to get to a hospital as soon as possible. This tendency to jump to conclusions is referred to by researchers as a response to threat anticipation. It is claimed to create bodily as well as emotional stress. When you believe you've been mistreated, you perceive the circumstance as endangering your bodily, social, or mental well-being. First, don't pass judgment on the words or actions of others. This is especially important in personal interactions. Give them a fair chance to explain themselves before passing judgment on them. Second, be adaptable. Be open to the explanations they provide and take them at face value. Do not consider those opinions to be judgments. Remember that relationships should be navigated based on solid data rather than shapeless assumptions. When in doubt, ask them straight out what they mean. Learn to listen before passing judgment. Allow yourself the willingness and time to put aside quick judgments. This will aid in the development of more rewarding relationships. Simple ways to stop taking things personally. Don't let your toxic pride stand in the way of accomplishing what needs to be done. Use your rage to push yourself harder on your project. Surround yourself with individuals who are kind and understanding. However, set appropriate relationship boundaries. Except for the lesson, don't care about previous failures. Don't concentrate on your flaws. Allow yourself to let go of your regrets. Be truthful to yourself. You must forgive yourself. Assure yourself that you owe no emotional responsibility to anyone who is causing you pain. Let go of folks who aren't looking out for your best interests. They are nefarious people who always want to bring you down. Don't let another person or circumstance define who you are. Don't let your emotions keep you from doing what's right, even if it means breaking up with someone you've known for years. Don't put yourself through excessive stress by attempting to influence people. You simply cannot control what other people do, even if they promise to do so. Stop relying on others to change for you. The consequences of taking things personally. Taking instant offense appears to be a skill that this Instagram and Snapchat generation has perfected. Despite all of the good that millennials and Generation Z have done on causes such as gender equality and climate change, they appear to be easily offended. Of course, given their age, they aren't yet prepared to deal with the harsh realities of life, and they can be excused for that. Nonetheless, despite their ability to have a significant impact on the future, they are easily offended by what others say, which has at least 3 negative consequences. 1. Taking things personally might deplete your mental and emotional reserves. 2. It may cause you to analyze and reassess your self-esteem unnecessarily. 3. When you start overthinking them, it might even lead to depression. The youth must adjust their vulnerability to the opinions of others. And so do folks with more experience from previous generations. As a result, there is a broad lesson here for them. Final thoughts. Everyone you interact will not be interested in your feelings, no matter how much you care for them. Do what you believe in your heart to be right, you will be chastised nonetheless. You will be damned if you do and damned if you do not. The key to copying how not to take things personally is to concentrate on that last word, personally. Finally, the easiest approach to think about insults is in 3 dimensions. 1. The meaning of the words and gestures. 2. The listener's skewed perspective based on their own experience. 3. The speaker's hidden intent beyond what is obvious. With this viewpoint, you can let insults slide off your back. Thank you for taking your time.